Alright, I hope I'm live. Playing around with this streaming software. This is the first time I've ever actually been streaming anything, actually, so I'll be interested to see if this actually works out or not. So hopefully it does. I don't know if anyone can actually hear me or see me or really anything right now, but it's a learning process. I'm going to figure this out. Anyway, guys, this is Matthew Kadish from the Salty Nerd Podcast. Coming at you today. It's a lazy Saturday. I got a lot of my work done ahead of time this week, so kind of have some free time, and I wanted to experiment with some live streaming formats. We at the Salty Nerd Podcast are actually very interested in doing more live streaming on YouTube, and we have, if you can hear my dog, he wants to be part of the show, but anyway, we at the Salty Nerd Podcast are trying to do more live streaming because we want to experiment with the format more. We do a taped show every week that we then go on to produce, which means that we edit it and make it, at least try to make it look nice for all you guys out there. And we're kind of experimenting with the idea of actually doing certain shows live on this. So we don't know what's going on. Oh, hey, Low Key T, just saw you popped in. Good to see you. We're going to be playing around with this format a little bit. And today, typically Matt Vader is the one who does these live streams, and he's the one who plays video games live for all of you guys to enjoy. But I'm going to try to do something a little bit different. I'm going to try to go through some movie and TV and entertainment news. Just kind of go through some headlines and talk about them and see what pops up. So if you guys want to join in the conversation, feel free to hop into the chat and ask questions. I'm going to be at least trying to monitor it while I go about my business. And I'm also going to try to keep some interesting topics going for a while. And if you're not catching this live, be sure to comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this and any topics that you might want to see in the future. Hey, Force of Light Entertainment. The Gina stuff does suck. Lucasfilm was a total disappointment. We can definitely talk about that. I know that she's got a big, Ben Shapiro interview coming out tomorrow. It could be a blessing in disguise, though, honestly. I don't think Lucasfilm was the right fit for her. And she's probably going to be much happier doing stuff in the Ben Shapiro arena over at Daily Wire. It sounds like she's going to have a lot more creative freedom, and she's not going to be muzzled. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of good stuff coming from her, most likely. But thanks for joining the chat for Force of Light and Low Key T. You're my official first two live chats on my first official stream. So we're going to have some fun here and try to do some interesting things to talk about. How's my audio, by the way? Can you guys hear me okay? I have kind of like a naturally low cadence to my voice. I tend to mumble a lot. So, unless the microphone's like right up to my face, it might be hard for some of you guys to hear me. But hopefully my levels are coming out okay. And let's see here. First thing I have to do is make sure that I can actually monitor the chat. So I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping here. Ideally, I would have had this done beforehand, before I went live, but honestly, when I hit that live stream button on OBS, I wasn't quite sure it was going to work. Okay, Force of Light, thank you for letting me know that my levels sound pretty good so far. So hopefully that will continue. You guys can hear me okay. And so we're going to start off with my favorite online entertainment news site, which is Dark Horizons. And it's kind of funny because I've been going to this website since I was in college, which was, like 1998, 1999, somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s. And this site, it's just been pretty much the same site since then. It's never let me down. It's always been very good at just kind of giving you the straight up news without any commentary or BS. So I like to go on here and kind of check and see what's going on. I also like to go and see what's happening on Reddit occasionally because that's pretty good. But this is my go-to site for all things kind of entertainment related because it's a good aggregator. It's kind of like the old school Drudge Report, except instead of politics, it's entertainment news. So this is a very interesting story here, which is basically Edgar Wright to helm a new Running Man. Now, for those of you who don't know who Edgar Wright is, he's kind of he's a director who has teamed up with Simon Pegg on a great number of his projects. The Shaun of the Dead type stuff, and he was originally going to be the guy to helm Ant-Man, the Ant-Man movies for Marvel. But I guess like he was a little bit too much of a creative vision for Marvel, like he wasn't working nice with them, even though he spent like years kind of developing, the Ant-Man property. So they eventually let him go and went with Peyton Reed to direct that. Peyton Reed did a fine job. He's gone on to direct, I believe, the sequel to Ant-Man and a couple episodes of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So he's a pretty good, workman-like director, whereas Edgar Wright is more of an artiste. You can always tell you're watching an Edgar Wright movie when you're watching an Edgar Wright movie. So he also did Hot Fuzz and Baby Driver, as it says here in the story. But it says that he has made a deal with Paramount Pictures to develop and direct a new film adaptation of Stephen King's dystopian thriller novel, The Running Man. And, it's kind of funny because we actually, on the Salty Nerd podcast, we actually did a review of The Running Man not too long ago. I believe it was on Schwarzenegger September. We did 2 weeks of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, and one of them was The Running Man. So if you want to dive deep into, the 1980 version of The Running Man, it says right here, 87. Go check out that episode of our podcast. I believe it's up on YouTube, but if not, just go to Spotify or Apple Podcast and look us up. Just go to saltynerdpodcast.com. That'll take you right to your preferred podcast vendor of choice, and you can just search for Schwarzenegger September. You'll find it there. But what was interesting is that the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of The Running Man, it came out around the same time as Predator did. And basically, so Schwarzenegger kind of had 2 movies that were going to be competing in the summer against each other, and he was much happier with the way Predator turned out than he was with Running Man. Running Man went through like 4 or 5 different directors, and it eventually ended up with a TV director who basically just got the movie done, and Schwarzenegger was just not happy with it, and so he kind of threw his weight around and forced the studio to release The Running Man later on in the year so that Predator could have the summer to itself, and Predator was a huge hit. And that eventually ended up helping out Running Man when it did eventually come out. But it was kind of funny because basically Stephen King, he wrote The Running Man under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. And I think like he had like this whole kind of series of books called the Bachman books, where he was writing off-brand stuff. It was not typical Stephen King horror movie type things. And so he was publishing these books under a different name. And back in those days, nobody knew who the actual writer behind the pen name was, because it was a lot easier to kind of keep your anonymity back then. So Richard Bachman, people just thought he was just like, some run-of-the-mill author. They didn't know he was Stephen King. And the guy who optioned the rights to The Running Man, he was a guy, he owned a wheelchair company. So he manufactured wheelchairs. And he was taking some type of flight for business purposes, and he bought this book at a airport bookstore and read it on his flight, and he ended up really liking it. And so he wanted to buy the movie rights to it, because I think he had some aspirations to become a movie producer. And he thought this would be like a good book to kind of start off with. And so he contacted the publisher about buying the movie rights. And the publisher asked for like an outrageous sum of money for these movie rights. And he was like, man, that's expensive for a book that nobody's ever heard of. But regardless, he paid the money to get the rights to it, and he started shopping it around. And the guy who eventually ended up producing the movie, it was Richard Cohen. And is it Richard Cohen? Might have been Dave Cohen. I forget. His last name's Cohen, regardless. And he's the guy who, Rob Cohen, I think is his name. He's the guy who created the Fast and the Furious franchise, He did, he's directed movies of his own, and he did okay. I think he did Dragonheart as well. But back around this time, before he'd gotten into directing, he was doing a lot of producing, and he was the one who kind of picked up this guy's movie rights. And when they found out how much he had paid for the rights to this movie, they were kind of perplexed, because they were like, man, that's a really large sum of money to pay for a book by this guy Richard Bachman, who's nobody's ever heard of. And they eventually went to the publisher to I forget why, but they eventually found out that Stephen King was actually Richard Bachman, and that's the reason why the publisher charged so much for the movie rights. And when they found out that they had landed on a Stephen King property, they felt like they had just found like a Picasso in a garage sale, type thing, because they were like, oh my god, like Stephen King's name attached to this movie is going to make it huge. Unfortunately, with the finished product, Stephen King basically refused to allow his name to be associated with the movie because it was so different from his book. His book was like pretty much the only thing they used was the title in the finished product of The Running Man. Personally, I love The Running Man. It's one of my favorite late 90s Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. It's not a very good movie by any means, but it's a very entertaining movie, and I really enjoy watching it, and I think it's a lot of fun. And it was kind of like the Hunger Games before the Hunger Games was a thing. So it was a good movie. And of course, Hollywood's going to remake it and ruin it. However, with that being said, the fact that Edgar Wright is supposedly helming this probably means it's actually going to end up being pretty interesting. I like Edgar Wright. I wasn't a big fan of Baby Driver. I thought Hot Fuzz was just okay. I really like Shaun of the Dead. He's got an auteur sensibility about him, which I think could lend a lot of good stuff to a remake of this. The question is he going to stick closer to the book, or is he going to stick closer to the movie? It says here, Wright's version, which Michael Bacall will write based on a story the pair will craft, is expected to be much more faithful to King's original work. Simon Kinberg, Nira Park, and Audrey Schoen will produce. Alright, so I know the basic gist of Stephen King's actual source material on this, and I think that it's not going to be quite as entertaining as the Schwarzenegger movie. First of all, you got Schwarzenegger, right? Hey, Skullberry 9000. Well, if you like the book, more power to you. I have yet to read the book. I just kind of know a little bit about the synopsis of it. But I'm such a fan of the Schwarzenegger movie, I was kind of hoping that they'd kind of take that premise and run with it. But, regardless, he's going to be a little bit more faithful to Stephen King's thing, which means that the movie's going to be probably a little bit more serious, a little bit less campy than the 1987 movie. But, new Edgar Wright movie. I'm excited about this. I'm going to be keeping track of it. I think that it could be cool with the whole thing about movies coming to streaming now instead of the theaters. Like, this might be a good movie to check out on streaming. But we'll find out. It's going to be produced by Focus Features. Interesting. I dig that. Alright, what other stories do we got here to talk about? Apple teases 2021 lineup and trailer. Let's see what the hell this is about. Alright, Apple has unveiled a new featurette offering a glimpse at new and returning original titles coming to its Apple TV streaming platform, blah blah blah. The thing about Apple TV, their originals aren't very engaging. I think I've seen maybe like one or two of their originals that I've found interesting. The first of which is what's that Rob McEnany one? Mythic Quest. That's it. Mythic Quest on Apple TV is awesome. It's hilarious. I love it. It was a comedy that we were able to binge, and if you've ever played an MMO or are interested in the video game industry at all, it's a fantastic show. The second one is C with Jason Momoa, which it's not a good show in the sense that, you know, it's well written or well made. It's a good show in the sense that it's so bad, it's entertaining. It's like watching a serialized version of The Room. It's so stupid and ridiculous that you can't help but be entertained by it. So it's not exactly a ringing endorsement on my part of C starring Jason Momoa, but it was fun. In fact, at the Salty Nerd, we tried to do a show-by-show like recap of C very early on when we were starting the podcast up. And now we've kind of got it down where we can do like stuff like WandaVision and Mandalorian and things of that nature. But when we first tried doing it with C, the show literally got so stupid that we couldn't bring ourselves to keep devoting an entire episode of our podcast to it every week. It was that bad. And it's a real shame because it's made by the same guy who, I think his name's Stephen Knight. He's the same guy who does Peaky Blinders on Netflix, which is an amazing show. But then like you go to C and it's just like so stupid. Like you have no idea the depths of the stupidity of this thing. We've tried watching Servant and For All Mankind and a few other Apple TV shows, and they're just not very, like, I want to say they're not high concept enough. You know, like on Netflix you got stuff like The Witcher and Cobra Kai, and on Amazon you've got stuff like Jack Ryan and The Boys, and like there's all types of really exciting shows on these other streaming services. And Apple, it's almost like they're trying to go too prestige with their original series, and in a way they kind of blow out the fun factor on this. Now that being said, they do have a adaptation of the book's Foundation, the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov, which looks freaking amazing. Like it looks really, really good from the trailers that I've seen. And no one's ever been able to successfully adapt that story simply because, like, it's a science fiction tale that takes place over the course of thousands of years. So it's the source material is a challenge, just straight up to adapt to begin with. So that's been an impediment. But I don't know, like Apple TV, they came along and they're like, hey, we'll give it a shot. So that's pretty much the only thing of theirs that I think actually looks kind of any good right now. They're adapting Stephen King's Lisey story. Never heard of that before. Mosquito Coast, never heard of that. Musical comedy series. You know what? Why don't we just go ahead and watch the trailer? We might get copy striked for watching this. I don't know. I don't know the rules on YouTube for watching trailers. I know that every time we try to upload a trailer to the Salty Nerd YouTube channel, we immediately get copy striked, however you pronounce it. We'll give it a shot, see how it goes. It might be an issue where you guys can't hear the audio, but we'll see.
A civilization climbs from the ashes.
So that shot with the woman kind of looking up, that was from, I guess, season 2 of C. So we're going to be getting. I hear that season 2 is going to be a prequel. Hey, Josh Anderson, how's it going? Thanks for joining the chat. So we're definitely going to be getting a prequel in season 2 of C. I don't know why they're not going forward with it. Maybe it's like half the season goes forward, and then we have flashback types thing. I don't know, but it's a pretty silly show, and it's kind of interesting to see that they're going to be bringing it back. I'll be interested to see if they tried to fix it at all, because the first season was rough.
The coming generations will have something to build upon.
All right, so this is a shot from the Foundation series I was telling you about, the Isaac Asimov adaptation. This is the only thing I'm really excited about. This would get me to subscribe to Apple TV just to watch. I recently watched Brave New World on Peacock, which was, an adaptation of the dystopian novel Brave New World, starring Alden Ehrenreich, the guy who played Han Solo in Solo: A Star Wars Story. So I was excited to see that they adapted Brave New World, but then I was like, oh my god, like you hired young Han Solo to be in this show. So I was a little bit trepidatious, but it ended up working out okay. It was a good show. I liked him in it. Alden Ehrenreich. I haven't really seen him in anything since Solo, so it was kind of cool to see him in like a different kind of role where he's not playing Han Solo. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, looking forward to Foundation. Hey Justin, yes, I have hacked Alex's channel. He gave me the keys to the kingdom, so I'm playing around with them a little bit. Whoa, was that Sam? That was Sam Jackson. That has to be a movie. I don't think he's in an original series.
But it isn't just knowledge we'd be saving, but humanity's story. Our story.
I know what it feels like to be left alone.
Justin Timberlake. I heard that he had to apologize to Britney Spears about something. Some new documentary on Britney Spears showed like how hard she's had it, and he had to come out and be like, okay, I'm sorry, or something. I don't know what. I have to watch that.
I will not abandon that boy.
I think that's what it's all about. Being brave, embracing change.
That thing with Ron Weasley that you just saw, he's in Servant, which is actually, it's a pretty interesting show. It's from M. Night Shyamalan, which is a big strike against it initially. But then, like, as you watch the show, like, you start getting into it. It's kind of like a weird, creepy show in a good way. It kind of reminds me of vintage Shyamalan, Sixth Sense era before he got absolutely terrible. So.
Where we went today, was it real or was it my imagination?
Does anybody really care about Billie Eilish? Like, I genuinely am curious. Like I've listened to her music. Her music's not that good, and she's just she seems kind of weird to me. I don't know who all is like into her enough to want to watch a TV series about her. Yes, Justin, Rupert Grint is an underrated actor. He is quite good. In fact, all the actors from the Harry Potter movies, all those child actors, now that they're grown up, Emma Watts and the guy who played Harry Potter, I forget his name. They're all really good. In fact, the guy who played Harry Potter's cousin, he has gone on to appear in other movies where I actually thought he was really good. He was in that chess movie on Netflix, Queen's Gambit, and he was really fucking good in that. Excuse my French there. He was really effing good in that. So I'd highly recommend checking out the Queen's Gambit if you haven't already. Who's Billie Eilish? I don't know. Master of the Whisper Mumble. Yes, Skullberry 9000. You are quite on the money with that description. Daniel Radcliffe. Thanks, Justin Proper. Yes, Daniel Radcliffe, the guy who played Harry Potter. Like he's gone on. He's done amazing work outside of his Harry Potter mold. All the big three have. They're all really good. Rupert Grint hasn't done a whole lot after the Harry Potter movies, but the stuff that he has done is really good, and he's really good in Servant.
I love you.
My family is the reason I'm the way I am.
So there, who's to blame? Did they teach you how to mumble?
Why is that such a big secret?
We make the move, and we start again.
So is Mosquito Coast about, like, white immigrants? It's kind of weird. Yes, Josh Anderson, The Queen's Gambit was excellent. I loved that movie, or I call it a movie. I love that show. It felt like a movie. It was shot like a movie. You know what's weird about shows about chess or movies about chess? I can't get enough of them. You would think that, a story about people playing chess would be like super boring, but I've yet to find like a bad one. Searching for Bobby Fischer, that's one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. Like the screenplay for it was fantastic. The characters in it, fantastic. Queen's Gambit was amazing. So I don't know. It's weird that movies about chess are so good. It was an old Harrison Ford movie. What was Skullberry? I don't know what you're talking about there. It was an old Harrison Ford movie.
have this noise in my head.
It'll stop.
Oh look, Spider-Man.
One day it'll go quiet.
You are the bass line. Without you, there's no song.
Oh my god. Is this a show about 80s aerobics? I'm so there. Mosquito Coast was an old Harrison Ford movie? Okay, so they just turned it into an original series? Interesting. Oh, I'm so turned on right now. 80s aerobicize? Come on, guys. I mean, okay, I gotta go back on this one. Look at this hair. First of all, this actress is gorgeous to begin with.
The bass line.
You glam her out,
Without
you
there's
get her
no
in
song.
80s leotards. I mean, I gotta get rid of it. Look at that. How hot is that? I'm sorry, as a child of the 80s, growing up, like that was, you know, that was my, you know, R-rated fun right there. Watching women in leotards that exercise on TV. Probably giving you guys way too much information about that one, sorry. You know, I tried watching the first season of For All Mankind. It's a Ronald D. Moore show, the guy who, you know, relaunched Battlestar Galactica, and he was a writer on Deep Space Nine. So you'd think it'd be good, but I couldn't get into it. Yeah, it's kind of like an alternate history about the moon race, where basically Russia beat us to the moon, and the ramifications of, you know, having Russia, you know, do that. So it's kind of an interesting premise, but at the same time, like, I just didn't care about any of the characters. It was kind of weird, so I'm not really super excited for season 2. I didn't even finish season 1, but it's got like Joel Kinnaman in it, and he's kind of not my favorite actor to begin with. Like, he does some good things, but I don't know, like, I haven't really seen him in anything that has wowed me in terms of, like, you know, the fandom. Speaking of movies that should be boring, Talk Radio, a movie about a guy in a room with a microphone. It's awesome. Check it out. I think I saw that a long time ago, Skullberry. I remember it being good. Isn't there, like, you know, there's like a killer who keeps calling in, and like he has to like kind of like figure out or keep him busy while the police track him down or something like that. I seem to remember that. I get that mixed up a lot with that Christian Bale, not Christian Bale. Oh my God, I'm so all over the place this morning. What was the name of that? The guy from Heathers. Oh man, I should know him. He was in Mr. Robot as well. Christian Slater. Is that right? Yeah, Christian Slater, right? He did this movie where he was like broadcasting some pirate radio station from his basement, and he'd do like really edgy stuff, and the police were like trying to track him down and things like that. What was the name of that? Christian Slater. Yes. Thanks, Josh Anderson. All right, I gotta look this up. It's gonna drive me mad if I don't figure out what movie I'm talking about. I tell you guys, the memory is the first thing to go. I used to be able to name actors and movies and stuff like that right off the cuff. Okay. Christian Slater. I think like his radio name was like Horny Harry or something like that, something weird. Let's see here. Past all of his TV appearances. Pump Up the Volume. That's what it was. That's what it was. Pump Up the Volume. Oh, you guys beat me to it in chat. Yeah. Talk Radio was way better than Pump Up. I'm sure it was. Pump Up the Volume wasn't a very good movie by any means, but that's the only other like kind of radio-centric movie I can remember. Then there's also Radioland Murders, which was a George Lucas produced movie, which also wasn't very good. But it was kind of more of a comedy, I think. Anyway, back to the trailer. Oh yeah, Servant. Creepy show. If you haven't checked out season 1, I recommend it. Oh, season 2 of Mythic Quest. I'm so excited about this. If you guys haven't checked out the Salty Nerds review of Mythic Quest Season 1, be sure to do so, because like we loved this show. It was one of those shows where like the first episode or so, like, you know, you don't know if you're going to like it because you don't know the characters and the humor is kind of like weird. But as you get into it, by the end of the season, you love the characters, you're fully on board with the humor. You know, in that show, they have this YouTuber / streamer who's kind of based off of, I guess, like an amalgamation of different popular streamers that they call Pootie Shoes, I think. And he rates stuff by numbering buttholes. So if you have a really good game, you get like 5 buttholes, yeah, something like that. And we've kind of used that on the podcast in a joking manner.
The night has ended!
And so a new day dawns!
I'm doing good, huh?
Real good.
So again, Apple's really good at doing like prestige-based shows, you know? Like they get big-name actors and big-name filmmakers and big-name producers to make these shows and movies that look really grandiose and serious, but they're just not all that entertaining, at least not from my experience so far. Justin Proper says, I was a little bit behind, but did I seriously just see Mosquito Coast with no Harrison Ford? Yes, you did. That's going to be one of their new original series, Mosquito Coast. Remaking Mosquito Coast is almost as sad as when they rebooted Magnum P.I. Don't forget MacGyver. They also rebooted MacGyver and Hawaii Five-0. So you can thank Alex Kurtzman for all that stuff, by the way. I think he was the one behind most of those. So, yeah, not too excited about the new slate. I mean, I'm glad that Apple's ramping up their output because, you know, after all the COVID shutdowns last year, I was kind of worried that we were going to have a shortage of new stuff to watch. But it looks like they're figuring out some stuff to give us. Oh, yeah, the Lethal Weapon show, Stillbury 9000. Man, that was bad. And, you know, like, this is coming from someone who likes Damian Wayans. You know, I've been a Damian Wayans fan since In Living Color. I love watching him. But that guy that they got to play Riggs, oh, so bad. That was also a McGee thing. I don't think that was Alex Kurtzman. I think that was McGee. And McGee's known for just making these, like, terrible TV shows that seem to be successful despite the fact that they're terrible. I don't know. He's got some type of magic touch. Almost everything is a reboot these days. Hollywood has become very unoriginal. You're right, Josh Anderson. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily unoriginal. I would say more lazy. Hollywood is, in and of itself, very, very lazy, just inherently. So if they've already got stuff that exists that they can work off of, they're going to do it. Like, I can remember I had a manager friend, a guy who managed talent in Hollywood, and there was a time around pilot season where basically every new pilot was going to be based off of like an 80s movie. They just took like 80s movies and like, we'll turn it into a TV show. And so like that was just kind of their thing. It's like it's lazy, not necessarily unoriginal. It's just lazy. That's what Hollywood is, really. Justin Proper says, never seen MacGyver, but I usually saw it when it was airing reruns on Hallmark Channel or something. I just assumed it was viewed by all the senior residents at a retirement home. The original MacGyver, probably. Like, I remember growing up watching the original MacGyver, and it's on, I believe it's on Amazon Prime, so you can watch the original with Richard Dean Anderson and in all its glory. But they remade MacGyver on CBS, and I tried watching it because I was a big fan of the original, and it wasn't good. I didn't like the guy they got to play MacGyver, the main actor. He wasn't to my liking, personally, but I think the show's still going on, so it must be doing well, right? Justin Proper says he might be thinking about MASH. Yeah, probably. Probably. Skullberry says, almost everything is a woke reboot. They seem to be intent on ruining every old property they can. Well, that's just, I think it's the outgrowth of a new generation coming into Hollywood and getting to the point where they can actually make decisions. That's on the executive level and the creative level. You got a lot of millennials who are in there who were raised by these super liberal parents, and now that they're in positions of power, they're pushing these beliefs that they have. Sometimes it works out, sometimes not so much. I don't really care for all the wokeness in my entertainment, but if handled right, it cannot be annoying. Problem is that no one ever handles it right. They just start preaching at you. Wait, there was a second MacGyver. Yes, Skullberry, there was. In fact, I think it's still going on. It's a CBS MacGyver. That's a remake. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon if you really want to. Richard Dean Anderson rocks. Love Stargate SG-1 too. Yes. It's kind of funny when Stargate SG-1 first premiered on Showtime back in the day. They had Richard Dean Anderson there. They were really kind of pumping up. I was like, wait a minute, MacGyver is going to be in Stargate? I thought that. Why couldn't they get Kurt Russell? And then now it's like Richard Dean Anderson is that character, and Kurt Russell's just like the one-off guy. They got to do it from the movie. It's so funny. Let's see here. Nick says, I love MacGyver. I watched the reboot, and by season 3 it got better. That's good to know. I know it's still going, so I'm glad to hear it got better. There is no replacement for Richard Dean Anderson. Ain't that the truth? The man is a legend. All right. Ratner returns with Milli Vanilli biop. Oh my god. Oh my god, guys. I cannot tell you how much I dislike this man, Brett Ratner. Does anyone in chat know who Brett Ratner is? So he was like this kind of hotshot young director. He did the Rush Hour movies with Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. And he went on to do bigger movies like X3, the third X-Men movie. And he also did Red Dragon, the Hannibal Lecter prequel. And I ran into this guy a couple times when I was in Hollywood. And, he always just he was never mean or kind of, he was never a jerk to me, like when I ran into him. But he always just kind of gave off this sleazy vibe. You know what I mean? Like I've never... Like some people you just meet and you're just like, ew. Like they make your skin crawl. That's what Brett Ratner did to me whenever I was around him. No, Justin Property was not... Brett Ratner was not involved in Star Trek. Yeah, so basically, let's read this article. Rush Hour and X-Men Last Stand filmmaker Brett Ratner is reportedly lining up a comeback vehicle, his longtime passion project about infamous pop duo Milli Vanilli. First of all, I'm not sure I'd want to see a fictionalized take on the Milli Vanilli story. There are documentaries out there about that. I think VH1 did a behind the music on it. That was actually really good. For those of you who don't remember, Milli Vanilli were a pop duo that won a Grammy, and they didn't write any of their own music, and they didn't sing any of their own music. They were completely lip-synced. They were basically a manufactured pop duo by the record company because they were good-looking guys, and they had like these dreadlocks, and they kind of sold this image of these guys and had everyone else do the songs. And when it was discovered that they didn't actually sing their own songs, it was a huge scandal, and they had their Grammy revoked, and they tried to rehab their image after a while and came back on. I think it was the Arsenio Hall show, where they actually tried singing their own songs, and they were awful. They sounded terrible. And so the fan base just kind of turned against them, and they eventually fell back into obscurity. In fact, one of the guys ended up committing suicide. I think it was Millie who ended up killing himself because he was never able to recover from what happened to his career. So a very tragic story, but very interesting as well. And I don't know if I'd want to see like an actual movie about this, but I don't know. I guess there are people out there who would. Millennium Media and Ratner's Rat Pack Entertainment are teaming on the project, which will mark Ratner's first feature directing job since 2014. In late 2017, 7 women accused the filmmaker of sexual harassment and misconduct, including actress Olivia Munn and Natasha Henstridge. That was another thing where whenever I ran into Brett Ratner in Hollywood, he always had women with him. Like he always had at least two girls kind of hanging off of him wherever he went. And he was definitely a guy who kind of leveraged his power as a filmmaker to get girls to be with him. Because I mean, he's not a good looking guy. I mean, look at this dude. He's still got his hair, but he's like pudgy. He's like me, he's got some extra weight around him, and he's a very annoying guy. But I think he actually had a lot of success on the producing end of things, more success as a producer than a director, because as a director he's just not very good. But he's produced some things. But yeah, he got called out in the Me Too movement. I think that's one of the reasons why he hasn't directed a movie in 7 years so far, because he's been kind of lying low, hoping that stuff will blow over. But the Me Too stuff, it really, it happens all the time in Hollywood. And, powerful men will use their influence to get young, impressionable actresses or executives or whatever to sleep with them. But they also target young men as well, men who aren't gay, who go gay in order to advance their careers. I've seen it happen. Not seen it. I wasn't in the room when it was happening, but when I worked in Hollywood, it was just kind of like something that you accept as a part of the industry, women are guilty of it as well. If there's a woman in power in Hollywood, they will use that to leverage into work and things of that nature. If a woman wants a big part, she'll seduce the director or the producer or whatever and manipulate him to give her that part using her sexuality. So it goes both ways. Me Too isn't just a thing about taking advantage of women. It's basically just the way that the power infrastructure of Hollywood operates. It's all about sex and fame and stuff like that. That's just how it works. Let's see here. Ratner reminds me of Kevin Spacey without the talent. Oh, Skullberry, yes. Ratner is definitely a very talentless man. I have to admit that. It's a shame about Kevin Spacey, man. He's such a good actor. He's really good. But I guess you can only take advantage of hunky young boys for so long until it comes back to bite you. Justin Proper says Milli Vanilli lip synced at the Grammys. Yes, they did. It was a huge deal at the time. I'm surprised you remember that. You're kind of young, aren't you, Justin? Yeah, it was a big deal. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade when all this was going down, and it was everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about Milli Vanilli. Let's see here. Nick says they did Hawaii Five-0, Magnum P.I., and now Walker, Texas Ranger. Oh my God. Remake of Walker, Texas Ranger starring Jared Padalecki as Walker. I'm sorry, the only reason Walker, Texas Ranger worked as a show was Chuck Norris, right? Chuck Norris was that character, and you tuned in because you wanted to watch Chuck Norris. The show was garbage. It was awful. Do you guys remember the Conan O'Brien sketch where they had the Walker, Texas Ranger lever, and they would pull the lever and it would just play a random 5-second clip of Walker, Texas Ranger? And it was always hilarious because they were all bad. So, I don't know, maybe the Walker, Texas Ranger remake could be better. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing Jared Padalecki as anything other than a Winchester brother. That's only because he's been on Supernatural for 9 years? Something crazy. Quit fat shaming. Mr. Vader, I'll have you know, I can't fat shame because I am fat. So I'm immune. It's like a black person being racist. It's not possible, right? So I will fat shame all I want. Let's see here. New Turner and Hooch in the works as well, and Queen Latifah is now the Equalizer. Yes, in fact, The Equalizer is now part of my CBS All Access subscription. I'm kind of on the fence about whether I want to watch it or not, because it looks terrible. Okay, anyway, getting back to this. I don't know, man. I'm not a fan of Brett Ratner, and I don't really care about Milli Vanilli all that much. It'll be interesting to see if he can rehab his career, because he did take a hit from that Me Too thing, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. J.J. Abrams' HBO Max set Change series. Uh-oh. Whenever I see J.J. Abrams' name in the title, I know it's not going to be good. It's going to be like, oh, what's he going to ruin now? Crap. Okay, hold on, guys. I have to take a quick second to check my video games. I'm addicted to certain mobile games that I have to log in every once in a while to get energy for the day in order to properly play them. And if I miss out on that energy, I can't advance my characters like I want to, so have to be on top of that. So just give me a second here. I know that sounds really nerdy, but can't help it. I'm a nerd, and the Salty one at that, which is why I'm on the Salty Nerd podcast. So we have a celebrity in the channel, Mr. Matt Vader 74, my co-host on the Salty Nerd podcast. Thank you for joining us in the chat, Mr. Vader. It's good to see you. He's usually asleep at this point in time. Otherwise, I would have him on the live stream. Leave it to Kadish to stream while the hockey game is on. Yeah, I'm not a hockey fan, so it's called counter-programming, Vader. Learn to love it. Let's look at chat here. Break free of the chains of free-to-play. I'd like to. The only problem is that the free-to-play stuff always has the worst business models. Like, I play 3 mobile games. I play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, Marvel Strike Force, and Dragon Champions. And between those 3 games, I've probably spent way more money than I ever have on AAA, like PlayStation or Xbox titles. Because they kill you with the, like, they're all free games to play, but it's the microtransactions where they get you. Alright. J.J. Abrams' HBO Max set Change series. Prolific writer, producer, director J.J. Abrams has set up yet another TV series, this one titled Subject to Change, at the Warner Media-backed streaming service, HBO Max. Now, I remember when a J.J. Abrams TV show was good. You guys remember that? Do you remember, like, when he was, like, doing shows like Alias and Lost and things of that nature, and, like, whenever he came out with a new TV show, it was like an event, because his shows were just, like, so, like, freaking awesome and imaginative. And now, after he's, like, you know, ruined Star Wars and Star Trek and all this stuff, and you hear he's coming out with something new, and you're just like, ugh. I don't want to watch another J.J. Abrams show, because it's going to suck. And unfortunately, those shows that he did produce that were awesome at the start ended up sucking in the long run. The guy just couldn't stick to the landing. So, like, with this, I'm just like, I can't get excited about this. The thought-provoking thriller, in quotes. You see that? Thought-provoking thriller. I feel like Dr. Evil saying that. A thriller follows a desperate college student who signs up for a clinical trial that begins a wild, harrowing, mind and reality-bending adventure. I'm not sure they're selling me on this one. Doesn't sound good. Sounds like we're going to be watching a show about an acid trip. Yeah, it's weird. Skullberry, I refuse to do any microtransactions ever. Good for you. Save your money. Don't be like me. His good graces ended with the end of Lost. He didn't really have a lot to do with that. I think, like, beyond the original pilot, and kind of getting the show produced. It was more Damon Lindelof than J.J. Abrams. So even though he gets some credit for that show, like, you know, he really wasn't involved. So all that blame goes to Damon Lindelof, in my opinion. Nick says, okay, I have to go back to work on my bathroom remodel. We'll catch the archive. Thanks for joining us in the chat, Nick. Always appreciate your support and participation. You're awesome. Thank you. Abrams will pen the script and executive produce alongside showrunner Jennifer Yale of Legion and Outlander. Huh. That's not too bad. You know, if she's going to be showrunning the show, you know, she's got a pretty good track record. That'd be good. It follows just days after news broke that Abrams will executive produce a new Constantine series for... Oh my god. Why? Just when I thought that DC might have like a good Constantine series, J.J. Abrams is the one producing it? Seriously? Seriously. You're going to ruin Constantine next. Yes. I can see J.J. Abrams casting a Jewish black man from Jersey to play Constantine. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Not that there's anything wrong with Jewish black men from Jersey, mind you. It's just, you know, the whole point of John Constantine is he's supposed to be this kind of slacker from Dublin. They even screwed it up in the the Keanu Reeves version of Constantine, right? Not too long ago in our podcast, we did a review of Constantine, and we were talking about how Keanu Reeves was just miscast for that role. Like, he was not right for it. Who's the actor that they got to play Constantine in the TV series and Legends of Tomorrow? Does anyone know? Matt Vader says Constantine will be a female person of color. Ah, yes. You are correct in that one, sir. They're just going to take the actress from Batwoman when that show fails and put her in as Constantine. That's what they're going to do. James Marsters, yeah, I could see him as Constantine, but I feel like they need to get a guy from Dublin. It wasn't Constantine, wasn't he? He was based on Sting, wasn't he? The pop singer Sting. I think the guy who created Constantine used him as a model when crafting the character. Pretty sure that's it. Oh, James Marsters, the guy from Buffy. Yeah, I could see him. He'd be really good as Constantine. He did his best Billy Idol impression when he was on Buffy. Yeah, for a fake European. Yeah, I keep forgetting. Like as Spike, he was like what, British, and when he was like just as a normal guy, he's just like no accent. He's just American. Yeah, I don't know who'd be a good Constantine, but I don't know, man. J.J. Abrams, I have no faith in this guy anymore. I used to be a big fan. Now I just, you know, if he's just kind of overseeing it and getting it into the funnel and someone else is going to come in and do a really good job with it, then maybe. But neither of these shows sound very interesting to me. Subject to change. I don't care. Doesn't sound good. But this Constantine is, I didn't even know about that. I hadn't heard anything about that. HBO Max has been kind of hit or miss with its original DC offerings. Like, I recently finished watching Doom Patrol, and that was pretty good. Not great. It definitely had its problems, but overall it was an interesting show. Their Titans series, not good. I've gotten about halfway through the first season and I can't bring myself to finish it. You know, and this is considering, like, you know, they have properties like Young Justice and stuff like that, which are actually really good. So it's like, why couldn't they translate that to the live action version? So unfortunately, just Titans, I don't think was all that good. But this, I feel like J.J. Abrams is just the kiss of death nowadays in Hollywood. Like, everyone in Hollywood thinks he's a genius, and they're really excited to work with him. But then, like, the audience, when they see his stuff, they're just like, this is terrible. Why am I spending my life watching this? I don't know. That might just be me. I could just be a cynical jerk. But I don't know, man. I feel like nobody's ever going to forgive him for Star Wars, for what he did. You know, I know I can't. Star Wars ruined me on J.J. Abrams. Alright, getting back here. Paramount Plus planning Criminal Minds revival. Isn't Criminal Minds still going on? I didn't know it was canceled. The show went on for something like 20 years, didn't it? It's crazy. Ahead of its rebranding from CBS All Access to Paramount Plus in a few weeks, Viacom CBS was reportedly planning a revival of its long-running crime procedural Criminal Minds. I guess it got canceled. This is like a show that would never end. It lost like every single one of its main cast members over the course of its run. It just kept going. So weird. Like the main guy in this, didn't he like get fired for like some weird sexual harassment Me Too thing? That might not even be it, but I know that like the main dude on this like eventually like got ousted from the show, and they just kept going without him. Joe Mantegna. I actually got to meet him once when I was in Hollywood. He was working on a show called First Monday. Was he working on that show? It might have been that. So I had a friend who was a writer on the show First Monday, and it had like a lot of older actors, and it had James Gardner. It had Kiefer Sutherland's father. What's his name? Donald Sutherland. Had Donald Sutherland on it, and she invited me down to visit the set. And I was relatively new to town when this was going on, so I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to come to set." And while I was on there, I ran into Joe Mantegna. Like he was, I think he was either doing Criminal Minds, and he was like on the same lot, like their sound stages were right next to First Mondays or something like that. But regardless, like he was there, and I got to meet the guy. And he was super nice dude, like super, like just like together, like just like I didn't have a long conversation with the guy, but you know, like he's an actor that I'd seen in tons of different movies and TV shows and stuff like that, so it was a real pleasure to get to meet him. He was just like, he was super cool guy. I can't say enough good things about him. Okay, so the drama originally aired on CBS for 15 seasons and just concluded last year. They already want to reboot it. it's like okay, like the show just ended, and next season we're gonna do the same show, but it's gonna be a reboot. They couldn't even give it a grace period. It's like, a year. It's been long enough. Let's bring this puppy back. We can still recycle stories on this one. Josh Anderson says, "Gotta head out salty. Gotta go adult. Sorry, I couldn't stay longer, bro. Thank you." Thanks for coming into the stream and joining us for the Salty News segment. We're gonna probably be doing more of these, so feel free to hop on when you can. Let's see here. Longtime showrunner and executive producer Erica Messer is expected to return for the new incarnation, though it's not clear if any of the cast members will be back for the new take. If they're bringing old cast members back for the new, is it really a new take? Isn't it just a continuation at that point? Like if they're bringing back cast members from the original show to reprise their roles on a regular basis, isn't that just, it's the same show? They're using the same showrunner. Typically with a reboot, you bring on a whole new blood to revitalize it, take it in a different direction. Paramount. I used to work at Paramount. Did you guys know that? I worked there for a couple of years when I first moved to Hollywood. Talk about a studio that has no originality. The highest grossing movie at that studio when I was working there was Jackass the movie. That gives you any indication of the geniuses who are running Paramount on the production end of things. Criminal Minds, the next generation. I'd love it if like they had kids and their kids come in, they're like all FBI agents checking out serial killers. It'd be perfect. All right, enough of this story. Amazon's Invincible series goes full trailer. Oh, what's this? I haven't heard of anything Invincible. Oh, it's animated. No wonder. Amazon has released a new trailer for its animated series adaptation of Robert Kirkman's Invincible ahead of the show's premiere on Amazon Prime, running from March 26th to April 30th. So Kirkman is the guy who created The Walking Dead, and it looks like this is like I've never heard of this comic before, but I was a big fan of his Walking Dead comic book. The show kind of ruined it. You know, like I used to collect the comics, and now that the show got so bad, I'm just like, I don't care. Like they diverge from the comics so much, it's just not worth it. It's not worth keeping up with it. Plus, it's a comic thing that feels like it's never going to end. Like he just keeps pumping them out when he has time. Kirkman's second longest running comic book series after The Walking Dead, the story revolves around 17-year-old Mark Grayson, a normal guy whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet, Omni-Man, played by J.K. Simmons. As Mark develops power of his own, he discovers that his father's legacy may not be as heroic as it seems. The show boasts one of the most packed voice casts ever assembled, including Sandra Oh, Mark Hamill, Seth Rogen, Mahershala Ali, Walton Goggins, Jonathan Groff, John Hamm, Clancy Brown, Damon Hunsu, Zachary Quinto, Ezra Miller, Jeffrey Donovan. Wow. That's quite a voice cast. You guys want to watch the trailer? Something like that? Skullberry says, nope, it lasted about 100 and something issues. Yeah, probably. I gave up after a while. I was just like, I don't care. Alright, let's watch this trailer. I don't know about superheroes with mustaches, man. I don't think they look very heroic. They look kind of creepy. I guess that might be what they're going for here, because I guess this guy has got some skeletons in his closet, but he looks like J. Jonah Jameson, doesn't he? Looks like a super buffed up version of that, which is ironic considering J.K. Simmons plays J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies.
Come on! Knock it off, Todd! I think Amber's been pretty clear about how she feels. I'm nothing like my dad. I want to be just like you.
I've fought to keep this planet safe. Your power's got to be due any day now, son.
Morning! I'm scared, Dad. What if I can't do this?
Follow me. Slow down. Land. I said land. Stop! Get up.
I'm actually getting used to this a little.
That's not good.
You need to be better. After everything he's done, how can I live up to all that?
You need to decide what kind of hero you want to be.
That was you! In the blue and the yellow? Why don't you meet the team after school?
May we count on you in the future?
Yeah, I think so.
And bored of this.
Son, we need to talk. What I'm about to tell you will change everything.
I wasn't ready before. Now I am.
You being a superhero is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Now take me flying or I'm gonna tell everyone you're invincible.
Sorry, not sorry.
I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, the trailer looked good. You know, it was well produced. The fact that it's animation, you know, it's kind of weird, but I can go with it. My biggest thing is Robert Kirkman. Like, I think the last thing of his I watched was Outcast on HBO, or on, was it Cinemax or Stars or something like that? And it was okay. Walking Dead's okay. This looks okay. Not super hyped for it. But I'll give it a chance. We'll see how it does. Alright, let's see here. Anything else interesting? Oh, here's more stuff about Apple TV, Mosquito Coast. For all you Harrison Ford fans out there, let's see what it has to say. Is there a trailer? Alright, let's watch this trailer for Mosquito Coast.
Dad, why are you doing this to us? Oh,
Isn't that the guy who, he's Jennifer Aniston's husband? He was on, what was that HBO show that Damon Lindelof did? Where the rapture happened. All these people disappeared. I forget.
Such a big secret.
Because we have a problem.
What kind of problem?
You know the kind of problem that you think, okay, first glance, that looks pretty bad.
The kids could get hurt. They're not gonna get hurt. They're with us. Oh, that's what I'm worried about.
If I just sit down and think about it.
Is that Maria Bello? The girl? I can't tell.
I might be able to figure a way out of it. We don't have that kind of problem. We make the move, and we start again. This is going to be an adventure.
I'm scared.
Absolutely.
Justin Theroux, yeah. That's Jennifer Aniston's husband. And the girl's not Maria Bello, but I remember her.
If it didn't feel that way, it wouldn't be an adventure. We need to go. Come on.
That looks weird. For those of you in chat who've watched the Harrison Ford original, do you have like a plot synopsis? I've never seen it. So, if you could give me a rundown on that, I'd appreciate it. Looks okay. Looks dramatic. It's not something that would make me want to sign up for Apple TV Plus, though. Now, Foundation, that would make me want to sign up. I think that's the mark of a good original series, is like, if I'm not already subscribed, would this make me want to subscribe? And that, it really doesn't. Oh yeah, we got a new Supergirl. I think she's Hispanic. Sasha Calle is DC Films' new Supergirl. Daytime Emmy nominee Sasha Calle, Young and the Restless, has beaten out over 400 other actresses to score the role of Supergirl in the new The Flash feature film at Warner Brothers and DC Films. So, I guess she's going to be in Flashpoint as Supergirl. It's kind of weird. Henry Cavill's not Hispanic, but I guess Krypton can have dark-skinned cousins. Are they going to make her blonde for this? I don't know. It's kind of weird. I guess they're going in a different direction than what we're used to in the comics. Let's see here. The Boston-born Colombian actress is also the first Latina Supergirl ever in DC. Calle will join the production shortly. Helen Slater played her role in the 1984 film, whilst Melissa Benoit has starred in Supergirl for CBS and CW. She's pretty attractive. I could go with her. Was she the girl in Baby Driver? Let's go to IMDb. See what she's been in before. Let's see here. Sasha Calle. She looks like the girl from Baby Driver. Nope. She's been in absolutely nothing I've ever heard of before. A lot of short films. She was in Young and the Restless. This is going to be her big break, it seems like. Good for her. Hopefully she beat out some real heavy contenders, so she earned it. I'm willing to give it a shot and see how she does. Let's see here. Nothing else going on. Okay. No, of consequence anyway. Let's see here. No Skullberry. I don't think it's a different character. I think she's playing Kara Zor-El in The Flash. It might be one of those things where, like, you know, Flashpoint, where there's so many different changes that you know, maybe she's a version of Kara Zor-El. I mean, who knows? I don't know anything about what DC is doing nowadays. Wonder Woman 1984, they just completely ignored everything that came before it. It's just like doing its own thing. I don't think anyone knows what the hell is going on with DC right now. There's no cohesive vision over there. I think that's one of the big problems here. Is like, you know, this guy who's making the Flash movie, he's just casting, you know, whoever he wants, and there's no consideration for any of the other movies that are going on. It's a mess. I don't know what's going on over at Warner Brothers. They've always seemed kind of like weird. You know, they almost ran Batman into the ground back in the day. They just don't know what they're doing over there. It's unfortunate. Because they have so many great properties. You'd think that they would be better at handling them, but they're not. They're awful. Okay, so we were going to talk about the whole Gina Carano thing. So as some of you may be aware, Gina Carano got fired from Lucasfilm back a couple days ago, I think. It was really weird how it happened. So she put out this tweet where she was comparing what the Nazis did to to the neighbors of the Jews, where they basically encouraged people to rat out their neighbors, spy on their neighbors, turn against their neighbors, and this is how they were able to round up the Jews and commit these atrocities against them without any type of repercussion. And she basically put out this tweet warning people about the dangers of letting politicians turn neighbor against neighbor. And basically, she had already been on kind of the outs with a lot of the more left-leaning fan base of Lucasfilm, and with Lucasfilm in general. Like, I think that, you know, the whole pronoun thing where instead of putting pronouns in her bio, she said her pronouns were beep, boop, bop, kind of making a play off of R2-D2. And so, you know, she kind of had a target on her back for some time in terms of, you know, the left-wing counterculture or cancel culture mob. And I remember Gina from back in the day as an American Gladiator. You remember when the new American Gladiators came on TV? It was like a reboot, because when I was growing up, I used to watch American Gladiators every Saturday morning. I love that show. It's great. And then they brought it back, and Gina was one of the female gladiators, and she was like the main lady they had for the joust. And I can remember watching the new American Gladiators and being like, oh man, the gladiator for the joust is hot. Like, she's really attractive. And she never said anything on the show. She was always like the very quiet one. She never really showed off or flexed or, you know, kind of crap talked people. But she was really good. Like, I think she went undefeated on the joust or something like that. So, like, I'd kind of known about her from the new American Gladiators, and then, like, as she kind of made the transition to Hollywood, for a while there, she was Steven Soderbergh's kind of pet project, where he made, like, Haywire with her. If you guys remember Haywire, he was trying to make her like a female action star. Only problem is he's Steven Soderbergh. He doesn't really do action. But that's an interesting movie. If you ever want to see Gina Carano try and act, go watch Haywire. You know, when I saw that she was going to be involved in The Mandalorian, I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I like Gina Carano. I'd watch her in anything. And she definitely built up an interesting fan base over the course of her appearances on The Mandalorian. But, you know, because of her political views, and, you know, she was never very blatant about them. Like, she never kind of came out and attacked people. Like you see Mark Hamill, like, he just flat out attacks people for having different political views than he does. And Gina Carano never did that. She was always very kind of, like subtle and non-committal about her stuff. But for whatever reason, this tweet gave Lucasfilm the excuse they were looking for to fire her. And they said it was abhorrent and disgusting, and because of that, they fired her. And it's a real shame too, especially the way they went about doing it. Like, they didn't really contact her and tell her personally. They put out some anonymous press release, and then Kathleen Kennedy goes out and promotes an Oscar or something like that. She does like a YouTube video about a technical Oscar, I think, and she's all about, you know, championing women in Hollywood. And she just fired one of her most high-profile female actors from her franchise. The hypocrisy of it was just ridiculous. And her video got downvoted or ratioed into oblivion because of it. They had to turn off the ratings because they were getting so many downvotes. It was embarrassing. And this is just kind of par for the course for the Kathleen Kennedy regime. Like, she just keeps making mistake after mistake after mistake, but she never frickin' pays for it. You know, like the whole way that she's mismanaged the Star Wars franchise and the way that she's been mishandling the talent. I mean, this goes back to Lord and Miller, you know, where she fired them after spending $200 million on their movie. You know, it's just, I really question her ability to be an executive. I think that maybe she should just stick to line producing like she did back in the Spielberg days, and let someone who's more suited to actual like studio work take the reins at Lucasfilm. I don't think that's Jon Favreau. I don't think that's Dave Filoni. You need someone who's got some good business sense and knows how to manage people to be at the head there, but they also have to have like a good creative vision on their shoulders. Like Kevin Feige, he's like the perfect executive, right? Like, he's a guy he's got the creative vision, but he's also a really good manager, really good studio executive. You need someone like that for Lucasfilm. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to run this thing into the ground. Anyway, Gina Carano has been rehired. I shouldn't say rehired. She's been picked up by Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire production company. And this is something like, you know, back when I used to watch Ben Shapiro's show, he had been kind of flirting with the idea of starting his own like production studio and making movies that were high concept like Hollywood does, but with a more conservative viewpoint to them. And, you know, it's a good idea if you can do it. And he's got enough money to pull it off, so why not? And in response to Lucasfilm firing Gina Carano in such a terrible way, he has come out and basically hired her to, you know, develop stuff with him and Daily Wire Productions. I think it's going to be a good fit. I think Gina's got a real solid fan base that she's going to take along with her. And I also think that she has a lot more creative freedom now. And so we're going to be seeing some interesting things, you know, with Gina Carano coming, you know, down the line. The only problem is the Daily Wire thing. I know that they recently released their first movie, which is kind of like a Die Hard in high school. It's about a school shooting, and there's a young woman in there who's basically like, you know, trapped inside the house or the school with the school shooters, and she starts taking them out one by one. It looked pretty good. The only issue is that they're not really following any of the traditional distribution model. They're releasing it exclusively through Daily Wire, the website, I think. Run, Hide, Fight, yeah, that was the first one. Thanks, Skullberry. That was the first movie that they made and released. It's basically Die Hard in a school. And the fact that it wasn't available on Amazon or Netflix or any of the other kind of normal streaming channel, I don't even think it was available on Blaze TV. You know, which you would think that would be like the natural place for them to put it. Wasn't even there, so you had to basically watch it through the Daily Wire website, I believe, and that really hurt it, I think, because the whole key to having a successful production company is distribution. You have to get your movie in front of as many eyes as possible, and I'm not sure. I think Daily Wire subscribers kind of got a, you know, got to watch it. But they have those subscribers anyway. You need a movie to kind of stand on its own platform. So Stillbury says Run, Hide, Fight is exactly Die Hard scene for scene. Well, there are worse movies that you can rip off than Die Hard. Anyway, I think that this is just par for the course for Lucasfilm. I think that they're a very ideological company with Kathleen Kennedy running things. I don't think George Lucas cared all that much back when he was running stuff. Like obviously George Lucas has his own political beliefs and stuff like that, but he never let them kind of influence his company. But now that Kathleen Kennedy is in charge, she's definitely letting her politics influence things. She's hired a lot of these people who share her viewpoints, these radical feminists, cancel culture types, far leftists, and basically Lucasfilm is in an intolerant workplace right now. They have no tolerance for difference of thought, and that can be dangerous. Not just physically dangerous, but creatively dangerous, because there's no one there to kind of give an opposing viewpoint. Some of the best creative work is done when you get pushback from people challenging your vision. And sometimes that vision needs to be challenged in order to make it better. It's kind of like forging a weapon in fire. Like when you got your sword and your metal and you're hitting it, and you're forging it through the heat. And, when I worked in Hollywood, I always welcomed people to come in and try to rip apart my stuff. Say like, oh, this sucks, or I don't know about this, or what have you. Because it would force me to sit down and be like, are they right? Like, is this good feedback that I'm getting? And when you're in an echo chamber, you tend to basically just go with the simplest solution instead of actually sitting down and focusing and saying, like, is this what's best for the project that we're working on? And I feel like Lucasfilm is very much in that echo chamber right now, where Kathleen Kennedy has surrounded herself with yes people, and there's no one there to kind of give her any pushback on her vision for the company. And that's not good. And this is one of the reasons why Star Wars is in the state that it's in right now. Although it's getting better with the TV shows. I know that Gina getting fired has kind of soured people on The Mandalorian a little bit, but I'm still a fan of that show. I'll still watch it. But it's disturbing to see how some of these companies treat their people. It's sad. I know that on Sunday, Gina Carano is going to be doing an interview with Ben Shapiro where she kind of lays out some of the stuff that happened. So we'll see what she says there. It'll be good. And WandaVision. Just do WandaVision real quick. How crazy was that last episode? Should I do spoilers? I don't know if I should do spoilers or not, because some people out there might not have seen it. Really good episode, though. We finally got a confirmation on one of the big YouTube theories out there at the end of the episode. So that was fun. I was watching it with Jude, and she flipped out because she was like, I was right. All my theories were right. I'm just sitting there like, yeah, okay, fine. I love watching stuff with her when she gets animated, like when she's invested. When we used to watch Game of Thrones together, it was almost like she was at a sporting event. Like she'd jump out of her chair and she'd be like very animated about what was going on screen. That all stopped with season 8, by the way. I think we haven't gone back to watch Game of Thrones since that terrible finale. But anyway, she's very invested in WandaVision. I've been very happy with it. Like the first 3 episodes or so, I was not too high on this show, but now I'm fully on board. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with the last 2 episodes. And yeah, it's going to be good. Anyway, guys, check out our WandaVision recaps on the Salty Nerd podcast. Put a lot of work into those videos and audios where we go through and kind of break them down scene by scene. And we'd love to get your feedback on that. Also, let me know what you guys think of this live stream. I'm not a big video game player, and I'm not very personally entertaining like some other YouTube personalities are. So I was like, what can I do on a live stream that would be fun to watch? And I just came up with like, let's do the news. Let's just go through some entertainment news. talk about it, chat with chat, and see what's going on. And so let me know what you thought of this format. I'd love to hear your feedback, and if there's anything I could change, or there's any other topics we could do, or any other ideas of what we could do for live stream. And yeah, let me know. And we'd like to do more live streams, see if we can get Matt Vader to come on and play some video games for us as well. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do daily uploads of new episodes and stuff like that. The Salty Nerd Podcast, a lot of fun. We talk about movies, TV shows, pop culture, all that good stuff. And yeah. Alright guys, this is Matthew Kadish, and I will catch you on the next stream.